Greetings and welcome. I am Joffrey, and today I have come to discuss a comment made by Lord Thanatos. This is the second time that I have made a point of calling out specifically a comment that has been made by him, not in a negative way by any means, but specifically in support of. However, I do not believe I have made a video specifically dedicated to it before. This man is always up in the threads on the actual Paradox forums and is very knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable about history and the topics related to the Tinto talks than I ever will be. And I always appreciate when I look through and read what he has said, or better yet, honestly, other people usually are the ones who tell me, Jeffrey, you gotta look at what he says. And the thing is, I come to realize that other people who get their information, like I used to, about Tinto talks, or the EU5 Dead Diaries now, and CK3 and other such games, from YouTube, as opposed to reading the forums themselves, would not see these comments, and as a result would never get to see the important information that is discussed, such as the fact that Doom is making a return, which you would hear about by watching videos. People such as myself will all talk about, whoa, look at how crazy Doom is, it's coming back. However, Doom, for quite some time, I've known it to be a little inaccurate and misrepresentative of the Aztecs in the way that they should function. However, I did not realize quite how bad it was. It has, in my opinion, after reading and understanding Lord Thanatos' points here, it is quite flanderized. They are made into a meme, much more so than being faithfully represented with engaging mechanics. Now, theoretically, what has happened is that they have ported over, again, the same mechanics of you need to have these vassals, and then it's just that they're able to represent the sacrifices by that. In EU4, they represented you needing to have vassals, because if you had vassals, then they would give you sacrifices to keep the angry gods at bay, that sort of thing. Meanwhile, in this game, having vassals helps you because it gives you slaves. Mind you, you can acquire them in many different ways, and you sacrifice these slaves to appease the gods. And it even says as much. I believe when we look here at Nahua ritualism, you'll see that it talks about human sacrifice playing a key point, a key necessary. It is a necessity to honor the gods and keep their favor. However, this is something even I knew about, but I didn't really think about it as being that big of a deal at the time until I properly read this, where the point is not that the Aztecs are afraid of the gods being mad at them if they don't sacrifice enough, that if they don't sacrifice enough, the gods will destroy the world. It is instead the fact that human sacrifice is a way that the Aztecs believe will directly transfer, as he says in this comment, it directly transfers the divine essence that every human has within them to the sun god, who every night needs to fight back the darkness, because every day is a representation of the sun having defeated the darkness and continuing to make the world continue, and that the world has ended several times in the past, and that once every 52 years it is the time where the sun could potentially lose, so they need to have their biggest festival then to make absolutely certain it wins the fight. So it is not some sort of appease the evil god, so it does not come and slay us. It is instead we must support our god who is fighting for all of us to keep the world going. That sort of thing. And there are many other things that, as Thanatos discusses here, there are many sorts of rituals and the calendars, like the Maya, because the Maya religion is also represented. However, they are also made into something of a meme by boiling down the religion to, again, the Mayan calendar. Everyone knows the Mayan calendar. However, it's a little more nuanced, and it's I like that the way that the Mayan religion works much more so, I have to say, because it's got that nuance of the various ways that you can try and prepare for their festival. However, there's no such thing here. And with the Aztecs, it's just this arbitrary notion of doom, and you need to acquire a certain. You need to just lower. I believe it's not. You don't want it to get too high, because if the doom gets too high, then for some reason the people rise up and sacrifice the nobility, which did not happen. It was not a thing where they would just go rise up and then slay their king, and that they would always be sacrificing prisoners of war. I was under the impression that with the Aztecs, the reason that this game, I always, like, this game, EU4 specifically, gave me a misunderstanding, a pretty significant misunderstanding of the way that Aztec society worked, in so much as I was under the impression that the clergy had like worked in this nefarious loophole, basically, of if we never get enough, if we ever just don't get quite enough sacrifices and the people are scared, then we'll just we'll kill off the king and his family, and then that'll appease them. They'll think that, you know, that it's a break glass in case of emergency kind of thing, which also seems kind of silly. And all of this distracts from the point that it wasn't even just humans that were sacrificed. You would also contribute mechanics for contributing enough for the new fire ceremony, and not all of it is human sacrifice. They could have human sacrifice being a thing that you can use to contribute to it, but there should be other things as well. This game has resources. EU5 has such a great emphasis on goods, and why can't we, as a result of that, make different contributions, construction projects, basically, where you would click on your religious UI and then click on some buttons that are like, oh, construct this or contribute this, and then it would start like a production queue where you were spending certain actual tangible goods from your market, and it would cost you a dynamic amount of money as a result of that, as opposed to just being human sacrifice. Maybe there are some things that should basically be required every time, that you always want to prepare certain goods, but I don't know enough about that subject. Even here, discussing the ideas of taking the gods of cities you've defeated, and would that not be such an amazing mechanic to have, where you could gain, perhaps, you could have various regions automatically, or maybe various places you would be assigned a god, and it would be the one god that you have at start, or maybe you have a few, and there'd be various gods you could steal from different pantheons as you defeat them. Maybe, because there's that mechanic in EU4 where the totemist? No, it's fetishists, yeah. The fetishists defeat an enemy, and there's also the Alcharinga faith, I think, where they are faiths where you can yoink some bonus from defeating an enemy. And would it not be amazing if you could, as the Aztecs, get a unique bonus for the Christians come over the sea, Europeans arrive, and you get a unique bonus for defeating a Christian nation? You yoink, you just steal their god. And same with many others. That could be very interesting. Go west and steal Buddha or some such thing. All of those could be incredibly memey things that would be much more acceptable, because it would be a ridiculous notion, but definitely something that could feasibly happen with the way that the Aztecs function. But this is me going on a little bit longer of a rant than I intended to. I simply wanted to highlight the right here, the pop religious aspects that are focused on with the Aztec religion in these games, that is not representative of the nuance going on. And it makes me sad, because I want this game to be the best game it can be, and that means you gotta move past making everything just about memes. So thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye!